everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to attend our Development Reading Assessment, or DRA, webinar on the power of a one-to-one reading conference. On today's agenda, we have a wealth of information that we believe you will find extremely valuable for your classroom or school. Some of these topics include the benefits of a one-to-one reading conference, the benefits of utilizing the DRA in your schools and classrooms, a quick look inside the DRA digital platform, and progress monitoring. Your presenters today are myself, Jessica Jourdain, and my colleague, Elizabeth Shanley. Both Elizabeth and I are licensed teachers who both utilize the DRA in our elementary classrooms and love the data we receive to help drive both small and whole group instruction. This quote, "I would suggest that our idea of reading is incomplete, impoverished, unless we are also taking the time to read aloud." As a teacher, I believe it is really important to read aloud to your students because it not only helps them process the language, it also helps improve their processing skills, vocabulary, and comprehension. As for the students reading aloud, not only will it help their oral reading fluency, but it will help improve their critical and analytical thinking skills, expand their vocabulary, and will help strengthen their memory. To understand our students as readers, we must utilize assessments to engage in a process of inquiry. How can we support our students to become more confident? We want to instill this confidence inside of them to be strong and excited readers. How do we help them develop the skills and the know-how to monitor their own reading for meaning and understanding? As teachers, we know that as students are orally reading, we want them to be able to self-correct themselves and hear themselves if they make a mistake. And what kind of data can we collect to demonstrate what they already know with what we can use to help them thrive? As we know, data is everything, and it's what we use to help drive our instruction. Let's begin discussing the benefits of a one-to-one reading conference. We're going to start with oral reading fluency. Hearing strengths and weaknesses in measures such as word recognition, fluency, and comprehension, knowing their reading level, it's really essential to help students find their reading level so they're reading at a book that they can actually understand and enjoy, tracking their progress. Are they on the right track towards their end-of-year goals? Are they on track to be promoted to the next grade level? Or if these students have an IEP, are we on track with our IEP goals? Analyze and synthesize learned material. Next up is comprehension. We want to make sure they understand what they're reading and what was read. Making connections such as text to self and text to text will help them with inferencing, vocabulary knowledge, and combining meaning of the word to understanding overall text, and learn the reading strategies such as main idea, author's purpose, and text structure. Connecting the dots. So how are we going to connect the dots of assessment and instruction? We are going to gather and analyze the data to find our baseline. This data will help us understand what they currently know and help us drive our instruction. And from this point forward, we need to consistently evaluate student progress to see if the student is grasping the information that they are learning. Now we must identify the key problems that will help the instructional staff develop strategic solutions that will allow educators to work smarter, not harder. As we know, in education, time is of the essence. These solutions include accountability and instructional strategies. So this is where the DRA comes in. And I'd like to introduce Elizabeth, who will tell you more about the DRA.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I just wanted to spend some time to go over the components of the DRA and a benchmark assessment. So what exactly is the DRA? You may be familiar with the DRA and be using it in your classroom now, or it may be new to you. The Developmental Reading Assessment is a K-8 classroom assessment that benchmarks reading ability. It evaluates progress in reading performance and also recommends focus for improvement. With the ability to identify independent reading levels and provide specific focus for instruction, teachers are empowered to meet each student's individual needs. While combining 3 decades of teacher expertise, Pearson's 3rd edition of the DRA modernizes the assessment content and the assessor tools to promote good reading behaviors in the classroom and beyond. And I couldn't continue talking about the DRA without mentioning our authors. The DRA is co-authored by Joetta Beaver and Dr. Mark Carter. Together in the late 1980s, they identified a need for an assessment to help at-risk students with reading. They developed the DRA with the goal of helping teachers become connoisseurs of reading, and they mention that word often when they talk about the DRA, while also encouraging students to be involved in their reading learning process. They wanted an assessment that reflected a more realistic process of reading, the process of choosing a book, reading that book, and then being able to talk about and understand what was read. Over the past 3 decades, the DRA has provided teachers with important reading skill information that impacts student reading progress. Now let's talk about just some of the benefits of the DRA assessment. So it is imperative to hear a child read in a one-to-one approach in order to get a better sense of their strengths and weaknesses, such as expression, rate, and self-correction. The DRA offers teachers the tools they need to observe and document student reading abilities and then inform instructional practice for follow-up support as needed. The DRA will also help teachers identify each student's instructional needs to create a plan documenting what each student needs to learn next with the focus for instruction. Once the assessment is complete, teachers can use this information to differentiate instruction and create instructional groups as needed. The DRA allows teachers to establish each student's independent or instructional reading level with an evaluation of various components of reading engagement, reading fluency, and comprehension. With all of these components combined, teachers can truly paint a vivid picture of each student in their class as a reader. Just want to highlight again, it really is a teacher's tool. So it's a tool that's specifically designed with teachers in mind. It informs you immediately by providing a student's independent and instructional reading level. The real reading process can be observed, assessed, and documented during a one-to-one conference. This is not always possible when you are doing a class-wide reading assessment or a computerized reading assessment as well. This process was designed carefully to reflect what real readers do, which is preview and select books of interest, read aloud or silently, and then think about and reflect what was read. It's a tool that helps teachers make observations about their class of readers. At the same time, it also is gathering data that is needed at the state, district, and school level. Practical and efficient classroom assessment that informs parents, teachers, and district administrators about the progress that readers are making. Of course, a one-to-one assessment does take more time than a class-wide assessment, but this valuable data that drives effective instruction is definitely worth the time. With a need for saving time during the assessment process in mind, the DRA3 introduces features like digital platform administration, the level estimator, and streamlined scoring and optional reading engagement components. So these were all designed with teachers in mind to save time, but still keep the foundation of having a one-to-one reading conference and gathering that valuable data that you can in a one-to-one reading conference. So I'm going to talk briefly about the process for gathering your benchmark data. Here's the data that you can gather in a benchmark conference, and teachers will be able to gather this information on a student's present level of performance in all of these critical reading skills. As Jessica mentioned, we were both classroom teachers, and so I used the DRA for 9 years to help drive instruction in my kindergarten, first grade, and fourth grade classrooms. As a classroom teacher, I would use the DRA instructional levels to first build my small groups for reading instruction. From there, I would analyze each student's fluency scores to set goals for small group instruction. I would then dip into my teacher bag of tricks for mini lessons and activities that aligned specifically with each small group's present levels of performance. I would also analyze their comprehension scores and set up subgroups within those small groups for comprehension instruction and practice. And I'd use that reading engagement piece, which was required at the time and is now optional, but I'd still use it if I were in the classroom, especially at the beginning of the year or with any new students in my class. It's amazing how asking a few simple questions can give you, the teacher, so much insight into that student's reading world, such as, what is one of your favorite books? Can you tell me why? Tell me a little bit more about that book. Do you like to read with anyone at home? All of this is very powerful information that will empower you, the teacher, to help that student become a better reader by selecting books of interest, by getting ideas about what that student would like to learn next, and then also some background information about their reading history. And so, speaking of student engagement, I wanted to also mention in the DRA 3 that we have expanded benchmarking book options that include a choice of nonfiction and fiction text across each of the reading levels. There are over 100 benchmark assessment books in our K-8 kits, giving teachers and students more reading options to choose from. In the DRA 3 kit, you'll find 74 book options with 37 nonfiction and 37 fiction text. And in the 4-8 kits, including the intermediate bridge books at levels 20 to 38, there are 32 book options split evenly as well, with 16 fiction and 16 nonfiction text. So over 60% of the DRA 3 benchmark assessment books are newly written or were significantly revised. And during that revision process, all benchmark assessment books were reviewed for potential bias against race, gender, and ethnic groups. I want to show you a quick look at a few of the new titles that are available in the DRA 3. So here's a sample of one of the new Kinder through Third benchmark assessment books titled Gardens Are Great. This is a new nonfiction book at level 24, which would actually be for a second grade student. And you can see that it has some new features such as colorful photographs and diagrams, drawings. And then another book that I wanted to show you is a sample of a fiction book titled Home at Last for students who are reading at a level 50, or that would be a student who's at a 5th grade level. Home at Last is a story of a boy named Kevin whose father returns home from overseas. So students are going to have more options to choose from, or the teachers can choose for them when it comes to selecting a text that they're interested in, and that's also on their level. And so new this year is digital benchmark books. So we also have the same exact titles available for digital administration through our digital book platform. If you are now faced with the common task of administering assessments virtually, the digital benchmark book access may be a good fit for you to be able to display the books digitally from your screen sharing device. So when you can't get to your students or you're assessing remotely, they can still read their DRA books and you can still administer the assessment remotely. And while we're talking about benchmark books, it's also important to note the DRA 3 Reading Stages Guide. This guide, along with our new level estimator, provides a quick at-a-glance reference of the relationship between reading levels by the DRA 3 stage, the student grade level, and then the corresponding DRA 3 book level. It's available in your kit and also digitally on the DRA 3 platform. Quick glance guide that just kind of helps you get started and see where your students are. And then a level estimator is a new component of the DRA 3 system. It's a quick to administer word list screener that provides you with additional guidance when needed regarding which text level or a narrow range of levels to use with a particular student for benchmark assessment. So for most students, their previous reading assessment information or your daily classroom observations will be sufficient enough for you to identify a starting point for their benchmark book. But however, in cases where a student is maybe new to the school or the class or doesn't have any recent reading assessment data, the level estimator can quickly estimate the level of which you should assess the student. So you would just have the student start reading the list of words, and once they've made so many errors, you stop them, and then it correlates with a level that they should start at. This is a huge time saver, so you're not having to get halfway through a benchmark book before deciding or realizing that it's too hard for the student and then start all over with a lower level. So again, just keeping that time-saving feature in mind. And another major focus of the DRA3 was to provide improved teacher tools. The design of the teacher observation guide has been refined and streamlined to improve usability. The front page of each teacher observation guide now includes a summary section where you can document student performance for future reference. So no more flipping pages back and forth or lots of scrolling. Everything is condensed and marked nicely for teachers to refer to for scoring purposes. Okay, and now we have a platform demonstration. I was going to show the DRA3 platform, so give me just one moment.
Okay, when I log in, this is my teacher homepage, where my whole class is listed here on the left. You can view your students' results directly from the homepage, and you can also launch an assessment from the homepage by clicking Start next to your student's name. Once you launch an assessment, you'll select the text, and your students are going to read from paper benchmark books, the same as they normally do. But now, teachers have access to the online recording program and all the features that will save you lots of time. For example, fluency is automatically calculated through the timer here. Once the student starts reading, you start the time. What's great is that you'll also get an audio recording of the student reading that you can actually go back and listen to later. Teachers will simply follow along and mark any miscued words or any missed words right here in the miscue analysis. Another neat feature is that it keeps track of the missed words right here on the right-hand side by category as well. Once the student is finished reading, the teacher can go in and complete the comprehension portion of the assessment and reading engagement rubrics, all within the platform. Going back to my home page, whether it be an intervention, instructional, independent, or advanced reading level, it will automatically populate here on the home screen. And then it will also make recommendations for word analysis or progress monitoring if needed for each student. Those components of the program can also be launched directly from the home screen by clicking on the available or recommended buttons to launch word analysis and progress monitoring. Once your data has been gathered on your student, you're going to also be able to access reports whenever you need them, like this Student Action Plan report. Just click on the student's name and it will pull up one of our most popular reports, the Student Action Plan, which gives a great summary of the student's oral reading fluency, their comprehension, and their overall reading level. It also gives a summary of the focus for instruction components that were selected by the teacher during the benchmark assessment. Also, with the online program for DRA3, you would get a library of resources in our online support. Here, so we have a digital library that has all of your benchmark assessment resources needed, progress monitoring, word analysis, technical manuals, and some fun extras as well. So get started today with your DRA3 online platform solution to start saving some time and gathering your data in one place. It's a great tool for teachers.
To our slides. And continue talking a little bit more about some of the reporting options. So again, as I just showed or demoed in the platform, we have lots of reporting options available that you can look at. If you're an administrator, you can look at your DRA3 results from at a school-wide level, at a grade-wide level, at a classroom level. And as a classroom teacher, you can then run reports on your whole class. You can look at students. You can bring some of these reports to your data meetings to kind of show where they are. And these are a list. This is a list of all of the reports that are available. Some of them I think were available in the DRA2 platform, but have just been updated. And now you have access to things like a class roster report, your student action plan report, a parent report, which of course is great to share with parents, and then the different school and district level reports as well. So taking a deeper dive into that student action plan report, clicking on a student's name would bring you to the student action plan report, which is broken down into 3 main sections. The report is designed to show the most recent benchmark scoring information with suggestions based on the student's performance. So the performance summary is the first section of the student action plan report, and it just gives a high-level overview of the student's benchmark assessment. Moving deeper into that report is the subtest performance, which gives a breakdown of the student scores in each reading component and also highlights the student's DRA3 reading levels in words per minute. And so this is great for moving into your instructional focus and where the student needs a little bit more help or a deeper dive. And then the third component of the student action plan report is the recommendation, where teachers can mark additional activities for focus that might be helpful for the student. So each of these sections combines data from a single benchmark instance, helping the teacher capture notes and observations to make decisions on next steps to help the student's performance. One of those next steps may be to implement a progress monitoring schedule for a below level or a struggling reader. And Jessica will now take us on a closer look at the DRA3 progress monitoring component. So back to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I am going to talk about the power of progress monitoring and how it is utilized as a one-on-one assessment in the DRA. The purpose of the DRA3 Progress Monitoring Assessment is to track development of reading skills for students who are currently performing below their expected benchmark levels, whether that's grade level or in accordance with their IEP goals. We recommend to conduct progress monitoring every 2 to 3 weeks. However, please follow your school or district's guidelines and utilize your best judgment to determine when to conduct the progress monitoring conference. A quick overview. The materials that are needed are the DRA3 Progress Monitoring Assessment Teacher Guide and the Instructional Routine Cards. If you are utilizing the DRA3 online platform, these materials are also available in the library. Step 1. You are going to monitor their oral reading fluency. The student will be reading a 1-page passage at their instructional level that should take about 3 minutes or fewer. This would begin at level 14, and the teacher would also record their rate. Monitoring comprehension, which is step 2, immediately after conducting the oral reading fluency portion, the student will orally respond to the teacher prompts to assess their comprehension of the passage. 3, the in-depth progress monitoring portion. The student will respond to 2 prompts that will go over one of the various skills, such as understanding multiple meaning words, using context clues, and decoding strategies, such as recognizing base words and affixes. Once the progress monitoring assessment has been completed at the instructional level and the teacher has analyzed the student data, student performance may indicate whether you will need to conduct another assessment at a later date. If further instruction is needed, each passage has a list of brief instructional strategies. If you are going to use progress monitoring with dual language learners, a benefit of using the DRA with students who are learning the English language is being able to compare their reading level with native English language speakers. Teachers should follow the standard procedure and format when assessing all students. However, when testing dual language learners, there are some factors that should be placed into consideration that can affect student outcomes. Do not count mispronunciations as reading errors on the record of oral reading. Students who are learning the English language may not have acquired the ability to form all of the sounds and may have some kind of accent. It is important to document the errors for your own record, but do not count them as miscues on the record of oral reading. Using phrasing and expression as key indicators of comprehension. With dual language learners, phrasing and expression can be more helpful than rate. Some students pick up decoding patterns quickly and are able to read fluently, but may have a hard time comprehending what they are reading. Listening for phrasing and expression can help you as the educator listen for evidence of comprehension. The student may fall into the intervention range for oral reading rate because the student is translating in their minds as they are reading. In this case, continue to build their fluency by using lower level passages so that both fluency and comprehension can start working together. Step 1 is now we're going to do a deeper dive. I'm going to show you the various steps and how it's conducted. So with step 1, it's to observe and record oral reading behaviors, much like the same way it's done during the benchmark assessment. This image shows a glimpse of what it would look like in the digital platform. The guide includes teacher directions, questions, and prompts for the corresponding passage. If the student's accuracy or rate falls below the instructional level, stop the assessment and plan to reassess at another time with a lower level passage. For the students who fall in the instructional range or above, complete the assessment to continue to determine their instructional needs. In step 2, the teacher will monitor comprehension to determine the student's level of understanding with targeted comprehension questions. The questions in practice are to help assess additional skills that contribute to the student's overall reading comprehension, such as inferential reasoning, vocabulary, and decoding. The students may use the passage to respond to the prompts throughout the progress monitoring conference. Step 3 is to assess students' depth of understanding with comprehension questions that target word knowledge and vocabulary skills. We would then move into step 4, move into instruction. Here, teachers can access assessment results to identify instructional guidance for reteaching by using updated routine cards with if-then statements that provide recommendations for instructional activities. So as you can see here, this one would be discussing character, setting, and plot, and would give the breakdown of characters, setting, and or major events. Now that we've walked through the importance of a one-on-one reading assessment, I'd like to highlight our professional learning options. In our research, a common trend we find is that customers prefer the ability to access training easily and all in one place. Well, to meet those demands easily, we have accessible on-demand training videos available in the platform. Elizabeth spoke about these briefly earlier. These learning resources will provide the flexibility to gain knowledge about DRA3 at any time. We know teacher schedules are full, and this would provide a time to, this would help with the teacher's schedule and they would be able to access them at any time. Now, if you are a school or district with unique DRA3 professional development needs, we have you covered. We have both on-site and web-based training options that are available. Obviously, not during this time, we have on-site, but we do have virtual options. And this would provide you the opportunity to work directly with our certified DRA3 training consultants. To learn more, feel free to place your contact information in the chat for us to relay this to your sales representative or via the information that will be provided at the end of this presentation. Additionally, to get more general information on DRA3, we invite you to call or visit us via the number and website here, and we would be more than happy to answer any questions. I'm going to check to see if we have any questions that we need to answer live. So Elizabeth, if we have any, if you want to help me out with here. The first one I see is, are there reports available to show student comparison season to season? Yes, we do have reports that will show longitudinal data, and you can see it in the classroom, or administrators can see it across the school as well. When you launch word analysis from the classroom platform page, does it give you a place to start, or do you have to determine the task to start with? It will determine it for you, so you don't have to guess where to start. It will show you on the page which skill to go to. And then, can we see where a parent report is created? Unfortunately, we cannot go back into the platform, but I can email this to you and tell you the steps on how to do this. And I think that is it for our live portion. So that concludes our webinar for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. It is very much appreciated. Have a great rest of your day, and please stay safe.